Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today in this video. Well, I guess today I'm doing some unpacking this package from Paul Rubens. Thank you so much to Paul Rubens for sending me this package. I will be opening it and sharing with you my first impressions, and also I do have a special treat for you guys, so stick with me. These are some new watercolors from Paul Rubens. And let's just get so these are the colors. They're actually 4x6 24 colors in this set, and these are what is this? This is just a little bit more, I guess, about their colors. They say they're vibrant and pure, strong spreading and natural smudging, high transparency and non-graying. Okay, we'll see. So they did send it to me to review them. And those are the colors. I do love that they're in tubes. These tubes can go very, very long way. I just wanted to see it's 20 milliliters, and that's 0.4 ounces, ounces, right? And colors: Chinese white, lemon yellow, cadmium yellow. Well, it does have those basic colors that are worldwide known. And let's just get into the swatching of these colors. First, I will place them in this box. So I guess white I won't be swatching because, you know, that's just white. It won't be visible on a swatch. And I will be starting with yellow lemon hue. As I did mention, these colors come in tubes, so they can go very, very long way. And also when you use them straight from the tubes, they are quite saturated and creamy. And also I do believe that usually they are a little bit more vibrant from the start and later on when they dry. And I will also use this sketchbook from Paul Rubens that I got from them previously. And just gonna swatch my colors. Let me just make a little bit more room for that. Turn this slightly around. Can you see? Yeah, you can see all the colors. So let's just get to our swatching. Or actually first, I will write in the names of the colors so that I know a little bit later on which colors I've used. Now that we are done with the prep work, we can just start our swatching. And I will be using this brush from Raphael. It just doesn't really matter which brush you're gonna use. Just gonna get a little towel to slightly wipe it, and let's just pick up just on the edge and see. Looks very nice, vibrant, very nice vibrant color. I'm gonna rinse my brush slightly and just make a slightly lighter value of the color just to see how it looks with a little bit more water, like that. And let's just get to the second one, and also let's just speed this up again. Next to the one I already mentioned, I do want to share a couple of first impressions Well, I guess when I opened this box, I would have maybe liked to have a swatch sheet, and it was not provided in the set. It does not say it is provided in the set, but that would be nice. It would be nice to have a sheet, swatching sheet, just to swatch your colors. Also, the one that I mentioned before, it does have quite amount of the familiar colors, nice range of those, and it does make it easier later on when you try to, I guess, create your color palette. There are many familiar colors that you can see in lots of tutorials. Lots of artists use those colors, and it is easier, especially for the beginner, to have it sway a path into the colors that they're going to use and colors that they're going to learn from. Also, talking about the colors, there are many hues in this set, and that hue in the color name actually means that the color wasn't made from the traditional pigment, but it was made from different pigments. For the example, that cobalt blue hue could be actually made from the ultramarine pigment. And I won't go too deep into this. If you want to know a little bit more about that, you can just Google it. There are many articles, informations about the hues and the pigments that colors are made from. So that's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. A good thing, it's because it doesn't use pigment that are potentially toxic or that are maybe from the resources that are not renewable. But on the other hand, it can also mean that the colors are not going to be as vibrant as, and maybe same quality as the original colors. And also it could mean that would not be exactly the same color as the one that is made from the traditional pigment. Having said that, using not traditional pigments could also make this set a lot cheaper and quite affordable, which is the case here. This set is very affordable, and compared to the other sets, artist grade sets, quite cheaper. But as I mentioned, you also get the colors that are familiar, widely used, and you can learn with these colors. One more thing I did notice is that all the informations on the tubes, most of the informations on the tubes are in Chinese. Oh, I don't mind that, but I would like to know a little bit more about the pigments and light fastness there. I can see that there are informations about that, but they are unfortunately in Chinese, which I can't really understand. And that's basically everything that I got from the first impression. Let's just see what impressions we will be creating by using these watercolors. So here are all the colors. Unfortunately, I just skipped one while writing the names, so everything got a little bit messed up, but I have managed to fix that. So I do like the colors here, even though, in my opinion, now looking at it, they're just too much quite similar colors in this set. I'm not really sure if I would just keep all of them. Does it need a cobalt blue hue and ultramarine? Not really sure. Does it need cadmium yellow pale hue and cadmium yellow hue? Not really sure. Also cadmium red hue and cadmium red deep hue, quite similar colors. So maybe I would just switch around a little bit that set and get out some colors and put in some different colors. I would say it's a quite nice set for a beginner. I'm not really sure about the quality of colors. I haven't used them by now, so I guess time will just show. So without further ado, let's get to the painting. For this painting, I'll be using Clairefontaine watercolor paper. It is 100% cotton, 300 GSM or 140 pounds. It is also a cold press watercolor paper, meaning that it has a slight tooth on it. Also, I will be using a masking fluid to mask out my poppies. and this is masking fluid from Winsor & Newton. All the materials will be listed in the description box, and also I have the link for the Amazon, so you can find there all the supplies that I am using, including this Paul Rubens set. And if you would like to try it, to buy it, you can just use the link from the description. And also if you do that, I will get a small commission, which would be quite appreciated. After my masking fluid dried, I have just sprayed a little bit of the water with my brush, just splattered, and then sprayed with a spray bottle. I don't want the entire paper to be wet. I just want some parts of the paper to be wet. Also in the sky, because I do want to have some harsher edges in my clouds and also some softer edges. On the left side, I left a tiny part for the swatch, for the swatching the colors I will be using in this painting. This is something that you can just make your maybe practice if you are learning, exercising your watercolors, just to leave a little spot on the side to make your swatch, just to know later on when you paint another painting, do the different exercise, just to know which colors you were using, especially if you make a color that you really like. Just write in the pigments next to it and color names next to it, just to know later on which colors maybe you mixed and used. For the sky here, I have mixed in some ultramarine and burnt umber, and yellow I'm using is cadmium yellow hue. Some sap green. And straight away I do see those colors are quite saturated and vibrant. Now also using a little bit of the burnt umber. Just adding it here and there. I do want the part nearest to us to be the darkest, so that's where I'm adding the darkest pigment. And this is also some Van Dyke brown. And all of this I'm painting wet in wet. And here I was trying to pick up a little bit of the paint. It started to dry, but I wasn't able to. So later on also when I paint, I will be trying to lift the paint from the paper when it already dried. And I noticed that these paints are not really liftable. Once they just soak into the paper, they're quite staining and very hard to lift. So that's one thing to keep in mind. This is a little bit of cadmium red pale hue and cadmium red hue, adding into the field, just creating the impression of a larger poppy field behind our bigger poppies. I splattered also some clean water to create the textures and a little bit of the cadmium red hue. Left it to dry completely. Now I've turned my paper around and just you can see where the horizon line is. I'm just going above the horizon line, wetting that part of the paper. And as I said, not really liftable. I wet the entire paper and I did not lift the paint at all. Again, mixing a little bit of the white Van Dyke brown and painting in that part. I also turned my paper slightly up or down just to help the colors bleed. And one more thing I did notice is these colors are not bleeding very much. I would say that if you have a quite wet paper, it would bleed but slightly, meaning that they are a little bit more controllable. So later on you will see also when I start to paint my poppies, I was just adding pigment in wet paint and it wasn't bleeding so much. It was creating those softer edges, but it didn't bleed everywhere. So as I said, a nice color to control. If you like to control your color a little bit better, I've noticed that that is easier with these colors. So just adding a little bit more pigment, as I said, in the lower part. I have used by now Van Dyke Brown and Burnt Umber also in that lower part, and for my distant trees, I guess, also mixed in a little bit of ultramarine and burnt umber to create some grayish tone just nearest to the horizon line. Adding again those colors on the left to my swatch, and after everything dried, I've removed my masking tape and now just painting in the poppies. I did not wet the paper. I'm painting this time wet on dry. For the poppies, I'm going to use cadmium red pale hue and cadmium red hue. First one a little bit more orangey, second one a little bit more red. So I do want to keep the upper part of my poppy a little bit more orangey, just to make it look like we can see a little bit more through that part of the petal. And lower part near to the center of my poppy, I'm going to paint with cadmium red hue, which is a little bit more reddish color. And I guess all the poppies I'm going to be painting quite similar way. This is some sap green mixed in with, again, cadmium red hue. And this way I could just get a little bit less saturated red, adding its complementary color, sap green, and I got this darker brownish red to paint in the lower part, and then added ivory black in the central part. Also same thing for the second poppy, and you can see me adding color, and it's not bleeding as much. It's not moving as much on the paper. A lot more controllable. Which could also be a nice thing if that's your preference. It could also be a nice thing. I haven't really noticed that with my White Nights or Sennelier or Schminke. I do think they're a bit more, I guess, colors that bleed a bit more, a little bit less controllable. This one I've painted also by adding a little bit of the cadmium yellow hue at the top as a yellow. You can see me now painting center. This is wet on wet, and it's not bleeding as much. I would need to move. This is also wet on wet. I just really need to move the pigment with my brush if I want it to spread. And I do want to have distinction between the petals to see that there are a little bit more petals there, so I'm adding more pigment on the borders of the petals. Now painting in the buds, and for the buds I'm using sap green and also some Van Dyke Brown. Same thing for the stems. You can see how vibrant colors are. I must say that I wasn't expecting to like these watercolors as much, but having in mind how budget watercolors they are, I truly like them. Next day, I was just looking at them, at my swatch, and also my painting, and they were very nice and very vibrant. Not dull at all, but very nice colors. While painting with that, I just noticed how creamy they are. They have very nice intensity, vibrancy. They're easy to spread, more controllable, but also they're not graining watercolors. If that's something that you prefer, you might not like these colors. I've noticed that they don't have any grain at all. They're very smooth and soft watercolors. I guess that's also my first impression after painting with those colors, and later on when I use them more, I will get maybe some different ideas about them, some different opinion about them, but for now, this is my opinion. And I would love to see your thoughts. If you do have these watercolors, just write in the comments what you think about them. Do you like them? Do you think they're worth the money? Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this was helpful for you if you were thinking of buying these watercolors. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I do have a nice treat for you. You can get a discount, 10% discount. There is a coupon code in the description box together with the link. And if you do use the link in the description and a coupon code, I will get a small commission and be very, very grateful to you. Thank you so much again for joining me today, and I hope I will see you next time. Bye!